And it happened that soon afterwards, he went to a city called Nain, and his disciples were going along with him, accompanied by a large crowd. Now, as he approached the gate of the city, behold, the dead man was being carried out, the only son of his mother, and she was a widow, and a sizable crowd from the city was with her. And when the Lord saw her, he felt compassion for her and said to her, do not cry. And he came up and touched the coffin. The bearers came to a halt, and he said, young man, I say to you, arise. And the dead man sat up and began to speak. And Jesus gave him back to his mother, and fear gripped them all. And they began glorifying God, saying, a great prophet has risen among us. Now notice, when the Bible records the statements of people, that doesn't mean God agrees. The Bible is an accurate historical record of actual events and the actual speeches of people. So you're going to know whether the God is agreeing with a statement by comparing it with places where God is speaking or a prophet is speaking on God's behalf. So with that said, he is a great prophet. Our faith teaches us Jesus Christ is prophet, priest, and king. Prophet, priest, and king. Okay? So that's no problem because he's a man. And as a man, he's the prophet of the Father. But here is where, again, there's ambiguity. Because the people may have understood it one way, and Luke wants to understand it another way. What do I mean? God has visited his people. That's exactly what Zechariah said in Luke 1:68, right? That the Lord God of Israel has visited his people with redemption, right? So again, when the people said God has visited people, when they saw Jesus doing a miracle, raising the dead, it is unlikely, let me repeat, it is unlikely that they were referring to Jesus as God. Because remember, they don't know Jesus. They're only seeing Jesus, and they're seeing a flesh and blood Jew. The last thing they would think is that this flesh and blood Jew is their God. So they would have understood this to mean that God has visited his people by sending us a prophet. But is that what John wants you to see? Is that what Jesus wants you to see? Does Jesus want you to see that he's only a prophet whom God sent as a sign that he's come to visit his people to redeem them? Or does Jesus and Luke want you to see and realize that that very God who has come is none other than Jesus in the flesh? Let's see. You ready? And this report concerning him went all over Judea and all surrounding this. Let's see what the answer is. And disciples of John reported to him about all these things. Summoning two of his disciples, John sent them to the Lord, saying, are you the one who is to come, or should we look for someone else? Now notice how Jesus is going to answer the question. He's going to point to miracles, but I want you to see the miracles he points to. Because notice that they're asking, are you the one who's to come? What do they mean? They're referring to the Old Testament. They're saying, are you the one that the Old Testament prophets announced would come? So right there, you should be curious to know where in the Old Testament does it say someone is coming? Where in the Old Testament did God announce there is one to come? Now, obviously, they knew about it. John knew about it. Now they're wondering if he's the one. Now, when Jesus points to the miracles, he tells us what passage he has in mind. Now, Christ, coming to fulfill the Old Testament, knowing the passages he fulfills, does miracles, which now disciples will see and hear, to then let them know, yeah, I am that one who is to come. But what miracles does he do? When the men came to him, they said, John the Baptist has sent us to you, saying, are you the one who is to come, or should we look for someone else? At that very time, he cured many people of diseases and afflictions and evil spirits. He granted sight to many who were blind, and he answered them, look, and said to them, go and report to John what you have seen and heard. Let my actions speak louder than my words, the miracles I do. You're seeing and hearing the miracles. Go and tell them. Look at the miracles. The blind receive sight. The lame walk. The lepers are cleansed. and the deaf hear, their ears are open. The dead are raised up, like he just raised up the widow's son. The poor of the gospel preach them. Blessed is he who does not take offense at me. All right. Watch the miracles that he performed to prove he's the one. The blind receive sight. The lame walk. Lepers cleansed. The deaf hear. The dead are raised up. Here is the prophecy that he fulfills. Isaiah 35, verses 1 to 6. Pay attention to verse 2 and 4. Isaiah 35, verse 1 to 6. The wilderness and the desert will be delighted, and the Arabah will rejoice and flourish. Like the crocus, crocus will flourish profusely. And rejoice with rejoicing and shout of joy. The glory of Lebanon will be given to it, the majesty of Carmel and Sharon. They will see the glory of Yahweh, the majesty of God. Again, like Isaiah 40, verses 3 to 5. Like Isaiah 40, verses 3 to 5. Here again we have the fact that it is the glory of Yahweh that they will see. The splendor of God they will see. Notice how this connects with Isaiah 40, verse 5. The glory of Yahweh, the majesty of their God, that's Isaiah 40, 3 to 5, specifically verse 5. So when God shows up, notice it's God showing up. What will happen? Strengthen limp hands and give courage to the news of stumbling. Say to those with an anxious heart, be strong, fear not. Behold your God, not a creature, not an emissary, not a mere messenger or prophet. Your God will come with vengeance. The recompense, the reward, payment of God will come, but he will save you. Then the eyes of the blind will be open. How do you know God showed up? He's going to do miracles. What are the miracles he's going to do? These miracles. When he does those miracles, no, God has showed up. The eyes of the blind will be open. The ears of the deaf will be unstopped. The lame will leap like a deer, and the tongue of the mute will shout for joy. For waters will break forth in the wilderness and streams in the Arabah. Wait. Blind, deaf, lame, the mute. God shows up and heals them. Jesus shows up and he tells the disciples of John, go and tell John what you've seen and heard. Blind, lame, deaf. They're all being healed. Now watch here. This part. Now when Jesus does the miracles, he then tells us who John the Baptist is. Luke 7, 24 to 27. And when the messenger John had left, he began to speak to the crowds about John. What did you go out into the wilderness to see? To behold. When you went out wilderness, what did you find? A reed shaken by the winds? But what did you go out to see? A man dressed in soft garments? But what did you go out to see? A prophet? Yes, I say to you. And even more than a prophet, this is the one about whom it is written. Now watch here. Jesus just said, John is the messenger of Malachi 3:1. Why is that important? Behold, I send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. My messenger is going to go ahead of me to prepare the way before me. All right. So who is the messenger here? John the Baptist. Who is he going to prepare for? Here we go. Malachi 3:1. Behold, I'm going to send my messenger. He'll prepare the way before me. That's what Jesus just said. Just what Jesus just quoted. And he goes, this messenger is John the Baptist. But who's going to show up after John the Baptist? Yep. Who's going to show up after John the Baptist? And the Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple. Uh-oh. The messenger of the covenant, this Lord owns the temple. This Lord is the angel messenger of the covenant. He is the one they seek, the one in whom they delight. Behold, he is coming, says Yahweh of hosts. What's the problem? If John the Baptist is the messenger of Malachi 3:1, Jesus is the one that John prepares for. Jesus just told you, I am the Lord Ha'adon. I own the temple. It's mine. It's not just the Father's. I'm the angel of the covenant, meaning that angel appeared throughout the Old Testament, that you delight in. But if he is the Lord that owns the temple, we got a problem. You know the words Ha'adon? These two words, ha-adon, they're never used for anyone other than Yahweh. Anytime these two words appear, the Lord in Hebrew, ha-adon, they're only used of Yahweh God. Even the Jehovah's Witness Bible admits. And all the other occurrences, it's about Yahweh God, used of Yahweh God. Isaiah 1:24, Isaiah 3:1. But then it says it's his temple. But we're told in 1 Chronicles 29, verse 1, the temple is not made for man, but for God. Isaiah 1:24. Therefore, the Lord Yahweh of hosts, the mighty one of Israel, declares. Here's the words, ha-adon. The Lord, ha-adon. When these two words are used, the Lord together, ha-adon, and every occurrence, they're used of God, with the possible exception of Malachi 3:1. But why would that be exception? If the pattern is the Lord, ha-adon, used for Yahweh, that means Malachi 3:1, that Lord there is Yahweh. And to further prove it's Yahweh, 1 Chronicles 29:1 says, Then King David said to the entire assembly, my son Solomon, whom alone God has chosen, is still young and experienced. The work is great, for the temple is not for man, but for Yahweh God. The temple belongs to God, not a man. But Malachi 3:1 says, here again, the Lord, ha-adon, is coming to his temple. Irrefutable proof this is Yahweh God Almighty. Because number one, he owns the temple. Number two, the words the Lord and every other verse are applied to him. But now we got a problem, Houston. Because Jesus said, John is this messenger that is sent, and after he shows up, the Lord will appear in his temple, who's the angel of the covenant. Well, who showed up immediately after John the Baptist? Jesus. So who's Jesus? He's not a mere creature. He's not merely the Son of God. He is the Lord, Yahweh, the owner of the temple. But now we got a problem. If he's the owner of the temple, and it's in the temple that they offer la trevo, then where does Alex get the notion that Jesus doesn't receive la trevo? I don't know where he got it from. Do you want me to show you how Jesus interprets Malachi 3:1 as a Trinitarian text? You guys want to see that? Watch here, Malachi 3:1. Pay attention to the pronouns. Pay attention to the pronouns. Behold, I'm going to send my messenger. He will prepare the way before me. Notice, my messenger prepare the way before me, right? God is speaking. This messenger belongs to me. He'll prepare for me. Now watch when Jesus quotes it. Behold, I send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare the way before you. Note now that the me becomes you. Please pay attention. Behold, I'm going to send my messenger. He will prepare the way before me. The my and the me are the same. My messenger prepares for me. But when Jesus quotes it, he changes the pronoun from, behold, I send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare the way before you. So here now, it's the Father speaking to Jesus. Jesus is the you, which means John is the Father's messenger. But over here, the messenger belongs to God, and he's sent before God. My messenger ahead of me. So what Jesus is doing here is showing you that the one God that sends the messenger is not one person. Because when Christ shows up, he shows you that the me is someone distinct from the my. I, my, you. I, God, my messenger, God's messenger, ahead of you, and he's talking to Jesus, but Jesus is the one identified as the me. But the me is still God. It's not a creature. I, my, me. It's God. How do we know? Who's speaking? Says Yahweh of hosts. Yahweh of hosts is speaking. So he's the I. He's the my. He's the me. It's God. I, Yahweh, going to send my messenger. And this messenger is not preparing for a creature. He's preparing for me. He's preparing for me, God, not a creature. When Jesus quotes it, he now has two different persons. I and the my is now the Father. How do I know? Because it's speaking to Jesus. You. So I and my are the Father, and the you is the Son. So Jesus just said, Father and Son are the one God, the I, the my, and me. So why would God say, I'm going to send my messenger before me if the Father and Son are not the same person? Because they're not the same person, right? Because you can refer to them in the singular to show they're not separate gods. The me is to show this God is one, but not one person. So yes, you can speak of Trinity as I, my, me, he, him, his, singular, is one God. But then you can speak of them in the plural, us, our, we. That's a Trinity. You see how that works? That's a Trinity. But even here, Malachi already hinted at there is more than one divine person. Does Malachi hint, Rumble, does Malachi hint there's more than one person? Yeah. Even Malachi, because notice, he says, prepare before me, right? But then all of a sudden, he speaks of the Lord in the third person. And the Lord whom you seek will suddenly come to his temple. He didn't say, and I, the Lord whom you seek, will come to my temple. And who is the Lord? The messenger of the covenant. The word messenger means angel. The angel of covenant in whom you delight, behold, he is coming. He doesn't say, and I, the messenger, I am coming. So even here, Malachi already prepared you that this one God is more than one person, because the one coming isn't the Father, it's the messenger, the angel of the covenant. And according to the Old Testament, the angel of the covenant is that angel of the Lord who becomes Jesus. So I don't know, where does someone get that Latruvo is not given to Jesus? That's an argument from silent, number one. Number two, you don't have anything explicit saying that Latruvo is given to the Father alone. What do I say? Because I just showed you that all the occurrences of Latruvo that speaks about giving Latruvo to God, you don't know if it's referring to the Father alone or to the Godhead collectively. How are you guys going to prove it's only the Father when the same authors identify Jesus not as the Father, but the Father's Son, who's truly human, a man, who's Yahweh God? See what a bad argument this is to use? Here, let me show you what I mean. Let's see all the occurrences of Latruvo. Here it is. Jesus quotes it. You shall worship the Lord your God and serve him only. Only. La trepsis, Matthew 4:10. Also found in Luke 4:8, the parallel. But then notice in the Gospels, it's only used two other times. And I just got done showing you Luke 1. It is not conclusive that this la trevin is given only to the Father, when the context, it's referencing Isaiah 9, a passage about a child born of a human woman who is the mighty God, a name for Yahweh. And it also alludes to Isaiah 40, verse 3, that John will prepare the way of the Lord. But according to Luke, that Lord that John prepares for is Jesus, not the Father. So how does he know Luke 1:74 doesn't have Jesus in mind? And when Anna is worshiping in the temple, Luke 2:37, I just showed you the temple belongs to Jesus, not just the Father. So how do you know that the worship that she's given is also directed to the Son, because the Son is the God of the temple. So how does he know that it's not being applied to the Son and by extension to the Spirit, if you can prove that the Spirit is God as well? And you can. He's arguing from silence, and that's a very bad argument. So can he conclusively prove that when Anna's in the temple giving La Trevo, that didn't apply to the Son as well as the Spirit? When the same Luke tells you that Jesus says that John is the messenger of Malachi 3:1, who's sent to prepare for the Lord who comes to his temple, the Lord of the temple, and that Lord that John was sent to prepare is Jesus. Here, Jesus' own words. This is the one, John is the one about whom it is written, behold, I send my messenger ahead of you, who will prepare your way before you. And that you is the Lord of the temple, who owns the temple. So when she's in the temple serving La Trevo, she's serving the God of the temple. And Luke told you that the Son most definitively and definitely is the God of the temple, with the Father and the Spirit, because we're Trinitarians. After Jesus cast out the legion, right, from the demoniac, watch what happens. Watch here, Luke 8:26-31. Then they sailed to the region of the Gerasenes, which is opposite Galilee. And when he came out unto the land, a man from the city met him, one who was possessed with demons, and not put on any garment for a long time. I'm going to revisit this later when he brings it up. But I just want you to see, again, icing on the cake. Now seeing Jesus, he cried out and fell before him and said in a loud voice, what do I have to do with you, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? So we know he's not the Father, he's Son of the Most High God. I beg you, do not torment me. Okay? For it commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man, for it seized him many times. He was bound with chains and shackles, being kept under guard. And it breaking his bonds, he was driven by the demon into the desolate regions. Jesus asked him, what is your name? And he said, Legion, for many demons had entered him. And they were pleading with him not to command them to go away into the abyss. After he cast out the demon, look what Jesus says. Luke 8:39, return to your house, recount what great things God has done for you. So he says to the man, go and tell them the great things God has done for you. Watch, very subtle. So he went away, proclaiming throughout the whole city what great things Jesus had done for him. The God who had done the great things for him, he realized was Jesus.